evening and welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, my good friend, esteemed colleague, basketball expert, and all-around good dude, John Webster. How you doing this evening, John?
Hey Gary, what's going on, man? Everything's going great. Weather goes back and forth here. It'll start off 60
Mhm.
degrees. Now it's raining, windy. But we're enjoying it. Every day is a good day, Gary. Every day is a good day.
Hey,
Hey, John Pitt, what's going on?
Not much. Gary, he's not telling you the truth. It's going to be 80 degrees on Thursday. It's really wild down here. And I think
oh
50
yeah, I
degrees
think
going
let's
to have
see if y'all get it on Thursday, we get it tomorrow. But only thing is here we're also under I think there's a thunderstorm threat, a high wind, and then a thunderstorm threat tomorrow. So tomorrow, but either way, tomorrow I'm getting out there and washing my car for the first time in a while because that thing it's like I think my car wrote "wash me" by itself on there, so I got to do something about it.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well,
Yeah.
John said I didn't tell everything. He said Thursday is 80. Tomorrow is a high of 50 with rain.
You know, this weird weather that we've been having. It's like what, 4 warm days, a cold day, and then 4 more warm days. Here in Kentucky, we call it the crud, and I always say it's weather like this is why people stay sick. But look, I'll take the warm days. I'll wear a mask and try to avoid catching something at all costs. I'm vaxxed up in multiple ways, so I guess I feel like I'm immune in one respect, but knock on wood, I'm not taking any chances because again, I've had that crud.
Well, I tell you what, Gary, speaking on crud, we don't want anybody to have crud, so we want to stay away from the crud. But what we don't want to stay away from, man, tell us about this basketball stuff we got going on, man. Talk to us.
Oh man, I'm telling you, between what happened here Saturday, college basketball has just been what it is. We've got another new number one, or should I say, a familiar face is back at number one. I think Houston's back up there for like the third time this year, probably like the ninth different number one at last count that we have. But here in Kentucky, folks are breathing a little bit easier coming off of a really big win on Saturday against Tennessee. That one, I don't know whether to be surprised or not because, you know, I think all along, and even Calipari said it back in November, he said, this is going to take a while. And I don't think anybody really listened to him because there was so much that I could just sense that he felt in this team. And it's like a coach is kind of like a parent. They know, like a parent knows their children. A coach knows his players. He knows his roster. And he was saying that it's just going to take time to really get this together. And 3 weeks ago, I'm gonna say 2 weeks ago, when they lost to Kansas and then lost to Arkansas, and the arguments were back about whether he's lost his touch, and Oscar being all a bum and all that junk. Now that they've beaten Tennessee a second time and boosted their tournament resume, which I was never really that concerned about. Just looking at this team and looking at the schedule, folks are breathing a sigh of relief. And I think, John, I sent you a note earlier this week that the way that college basketball is, if you can be above 500 in your conference and win 20 plus games, you're pretty much in the field. And I think that's where Kentucky is right now. They've got to beat Florida tomorrow night to get closer to that threshold. But the way college basketball is, there's no dominant team. And I think right now I'm more concerned about Tennessee and where they are because they got swept by Kentucky, and that's a team I thought would dominate Kentucky.
Well, it's interesting. On any given day, it's pretty accurate for what's going on this year in basketball. Any given day, anybody can go down. Kentucky
Mm-hmm.
played a great game on Saturday. Of course, Mr. Consistency, Oscar Sheway. What do you say, Mr. Double Double? He comes through. He does everything he's supposed to do. They beat Tennessee. Tennessee's a very good team. Right now, they have Kentucky in. They're one of the last four in.
Mm-hmm.
I think they get in, Gary. I really do. I think that was a very good win for them. But I don't know how far this team will go. This is not, you know what I'll say? This isn't a Calipari team for Kentucky. This is a Calipari team from UMass. And what do I mean by that? You
I know
have
exactly
a
what you mean, but explain.
you have a lot of hard hat players. You have a lot of working hard guys. You don't have anything cute and pretty and sexy out there. It's just hard hats and construction each and every trip down the court. That's the kind of team I see they have. And I think people in Lexington have become spoiled. Well, they're always spoiled in Lexington, Gary. I mean, you go all the way back to the 50s when they're winning national championships. That's what they expect. But when you look at what Calipari has won with in the past, a lot of one and dones. I mean, we can go all the way back to with John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, Willie Cauley-Stein, Anthony Davis,
Carl Anthony Towns.
Carl Anthony Towns. You know, you the list goes on. There are no players on this team right now who are like any of those guys. I don't mean they're any lesser player, but they're more hard hat. This is more a UMass type of team. You know, or this doesn't even look like Calipari at Memphis when he had
Like
Derrick
that.
Rose. This doesn't even look like this. This is just a straight up no names. Just come to work, put your head down, and you grind. This
Yeah.
is what he has this year. I think they'll get in. I don't know how far they'll go. I'll tell you this. I would not want to play them because the way they play is going to be very, very, very hard to match up with. They grind you out on the defensive end. They have a steady low post player who is in his third year, Gary?
Well, second year at Kentucky, but Oscar's a senior to your point. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how many guys do you see now that are that old? Oh, well, that's not a fair statement. You have a lot of guys that old. But my whole point is players like that on Calipari's team and some other teams where you have the older guys, that will play a difference when you get to the tournament. Older guys with more experience know what's going on, and they can bang on you, hit on you, and make your life miserable. So I think Kentucky's going to be tough. I tell you what, you're talking about the tournament.
Yeah.
I'll give you go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, if people in Lexington would love hearing you say that because they've been so worried about this team all year, whether they'll get to the tournament. I agree with you. It's a team that I wouldn't want to face in March because, again, Calipari has said this every year. It sounds like he's selling a used car. But he's right that it's not important how you're playing in December and January. It's how you're playing in late February into early March and then getting into your conference tournament schedule. And, I think right now the spoiled part about being here in Kentucky is that, they're so spoiled that right now they would love one tournament win. That's the one thing. Calipari hasn't won a tournament game since 2019 when they lost to Auburn in the Elite Eight in overtime, and COVID being what it was the next year. Then the COVID ravaged team. I'll say a COVID ravaged season next year, and then last year's first year upset by St. Pete. Everybody has kind of looked at that as a downward pattern, which I feel like it's kind of unfair because you never know. We never got to find out what the 2020 team was going to be like. When they called that season off, they were on the court practicing at the SEC tournament, and they were all stunned. They didn't know what was going on. Nobody knew what was going on, and here we are. But I think there are 5 teams. Well, actually, there are 3 teams that I wouldn't want to face in March. One is Houston, the top-ranked team. Kansas is a team I really wouldn't want to face. And I'll go as far as to say maybe Kansas State. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago about how strong the Big 12 is. Kansas State has taken a couple lumps, but again, everybody's cannibalizing each other, so to speak, in that conference. And I think it's just going to be such a dogfight. Kansas is being Kansas. They overcame their own little 3-game winning streak, and they seem to be in the driver's seat now. But again, I think there's so much parity that I can't pick a dominant team. But I gave you 3 teams that I think I would not want to face. Now, from a conference level, here's one I'm going to throw by you, John, from the SEC that I think nobody wants to face, including Kentucky, and that's Vanderbilt. What Stackhouse is doing with that team, the wins they've gotten lately, that's a team I just would not really want to face because they're getting confident. He's proven himself to be a good strategist, strategist, X's and O's guys, whatever term you want to use. And I tell you, right now, they kind of scare me going into March.
That's interesting. Let me go back on what you said now. You put some very good points in there. Very good points. Now, Houston, Kelvin Sampson's team every year. Oh man, they come out and you just can't get the ball up court. They're tough.
No.
They're mean. Oh, they can play. They're unbelievable. But if they can't turn you over on defense, their offense is questionable.
Good point.
Hear what I'm saying, Gary?
I know
they can't turn you over on defense. Their offense is questionable. They are very good, tough rebounders, strong defenders. But if they have to go and rely on their offense, it's a problem. Yeah. Kansas. I watched Kansas last night. Then I watched them play Baylor last weekend. I mean, it's a Bill Self team. What are they doing? They're getting better as the season goes on. Last night they beat who was that they beat last night? It was 63-58. I can't.
Was it TCU, right?
TCU. They beat TCU. Yeah. And I'm telling you, the kid, Grady Dick, great player, all-around player. He can rebound. He can shoot. He can take you off the dribble. He can make the good pass. Unbelievable. They got another kid, Wilson, plays well. Point guard made a lot of good decisions. The key with Kansas is they don't appear to be very deep. Can go about eight, then you got a question. Now, I'm going to tell you something, and we probably have to move on, so I'm going to make the point real quick. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Vanderbilt. I hear with Stackhouse. I'll go back to what I told you 3 or 4 weeks ago. Gonzaga.
Yeah.
They're going to be a problem. And you know what they're going to be even a bigger problem? Nobody's looking at them. They don't have anything to lose. They will not be the number 1 seed this year. And I'll tell you something else.
And it might be the best thing for them, too.
Oh, yeah. UCLA is going to be tough. They're going to be tough. And the last thing I'll tell you before we move on, Alabama will have problems based on whoever they are matched up with. If Alabama is able to get a matchup in the tournament with the team that will go up and down with them, they're going to blow them out. If Alabama is matched up against a team that is going to slow it down and do some sets, they're going to have problems.
Yeah. And a physical team can slow Alabama down too. And that's the one thing they haven't faced in this conference until they went up against Tennessee, which has 2 bigs who basically they're just in the game to annoy you. They annoy the heck out of Oscar Tshiebwe in both of those games, and he had to fight through that to get every basket and rebound. And they were on the court to get under his skin. He had to really block that out. But with Alabama can score. Alabama can run. Alabama can defend. But if you can slow them down and body them up, you can beat them. Everything you said was right on point. And again, I think Nate Oates is a fantastic coach. You know,
Absolutely.
he
Absolutely.
and the fact that they are where they are after losing all that scoring from a couple of years ago. I mean, heck, even from last year, you know, that was a good team last year. For him to have them at that top level, I think speaks to how good of a coach he is, and really to the kind of talent that he's recruiting. But matchups, like you said, being what they are in March, if they've got a team that can throw up a roadblock of any sort, they're gonna have to work. They're gonna have to prove that they can play smash mouth, whatever, slobber knocker basketball, if they're going to advance. And to your point about Gonzaga and UCLA, John, I couldn't agree more. Those two teams are overlooked, maybe because East Coast bias among some media, but I think most people that follow college basketball don't stay up to watch those games, and that's a big mistake. And scouts, anybody that's scouting for the tournament, better watch some of those games with UCLA and Gonzaga, or really watch the Pac-12 in general and the WCC, because that kind of basketball, that's the reason why they have gone so far. They, meaning Gonzaga, have gone so far in March, year after year after year.
You said it well, Gary. You said it well. What's
Yeah.
happening on that women's side, man? What's happening on the women's side?
Well, I think if you look at South Carolina, you're looking at a team that I think is hitting that late season lull. Obviously, they're working through it. They're still undefeated. They're still number one, not unanimously, so to speak, but they had to fight to beat Mississippi State. I'm sorry, Ole Miss this weekend, and I mean they really had to fight. And I think that's where you see their depth coming through that makes the difference. That's where you see Dawn Staley saying, okay, we've got 40 minutes. We've got the second half to really kind of work through it. We don't have to beat them bad. We just have to find a way to come back and beat them, which is what they do. I think once they get to March, there are teams that know how strong they are, but you've got to beat their strengths. You've got to beat Cardosa coming off the bench. You've got to beat Aaliyah Boston. Period. You've got to beat Zaya Cook. Period. Those, I mean, that's where you start. But they are deep, and I don't know how many teams can really do that. I think for them, their biggest concern might be in the conference tournament, and where everybody knows them. But again, once you get past the conference tournament and you're a number one seed, you people have got to come after you. But I don't see anything right now where anybody can really topple them unless they really try to slow them down and turn them over, which is possible because they are prone to taking their eye off the ball.
Yeah, and I think the Mississippi game was good for them on Sunday. It provided them an atmosphere, and let's give credit to Mississippi. They had a sellout there, 6,500 people, made it a really hard environment for South Carolina to play in, and they played them hard. They were right there the whole
Yeah.
game. And it was good for South Carolina because you don't need to keep having cakewalks. I'm from an old school, Gary. I
Yeah.
believe you need to have some tough games. You need to face some adversity. If you continue to walk through everybody and beat everybody easily, you start believing your press clippings. And
Yep.
I don't want that to happen. Aaliyah Boston had a really good game, but she did struggle at the foul line. She missed 3 or 4 free throws going near the end of the game, and they ended up beating them in overtime. She also made a key defensive play and a block to get it to overtime. And Zyra Cook, oh my goodness. Oh, do I love how she plays? She goes and finds the medium range jump shot. She makes the extra pass. Oh, it just does my heart well to watch her play basketball the old fashioned way, the good way. And
Yeah.
Dawn Staley, she's not a great women's coach. She is a great coach, period. She is
Okay.
not a great
Okay.
women's coach. She
John, I had to
is a
pause
great
there. I was like, wait, what? But
no,
yeah,
she is a great coach. I don't care if you put her in the men's game or the women's game. She's still a great coach. And she has done a tremendous job at South Carolina. That's a team going into the tournament. They're probably going to be the number one seed overall. They can play 10 or 11 people every week. But who else can bring a 6'7" center off the bench to get a double double? Who else has a Cordoba at their, I mean, that's just great. I mean, they're a very good team. They're going to be hard to beat, and that was a good game for them.
yeah,
UConn, that's another one. Gino Ariyama, you got to give him credit. He doesn't have Fudd this year. He doesn't have Paige Beckers this year. Well, Fudd is hurt. I think she may
yeah.
be back. But look at what he's doing. They beat Villanova this weekend. That was a hard game. Villanova played them really, really tough, but they pulled away at the end to win. He's doing a great job there. I look at this tournament, I see UConn, Indiana. Do you believe Indiana, what they're doing this year? And they're the one team that got the other number one seed. I mean, the number one vote. This
Yeah.
is the first time this whole season South Carolina has not been a unanimous number one for the rankings. And the one vote went to Indiana. And, in that Big Ten, Indiana is really tough.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Lady Terps with Brenda Freeze doing a great job. She lost Angel Reese. She lost Owuzu. And look at what she's still doing. She's got
Yep.
Abby Myers over there, and they're still getting the job done. I mean, great. I mean,
Don't forget
very,
Iowa. Don't forget Iowa.
oh, Iowa with Kaylin Clark. Yeah, Gary, I'm excited. I'm just as excited about the women's tournament as I am about the men's tournament because,
Yeah.
you got some legitimate number one seeds for the women's side. You got South Carolina. You got Indiana. You got, I guess, I would say UConn, and you're going to take one of those teams out west. I mean, it's just going to be
Stanford, Arizona,
Stanford,
the
Arizona.
usual the usual suspects.
They're going to be strong number one seeds, and your number two seeds. Come on, you're looking at like, can you imagine this? Your number two seed in the region is going to be LSU, or your number two seed in the region is going to be Maryland. Come on, kid. This is going to be an unbelievable tournament, man. It's just like on the men's side, it's going to be great too. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't wait. I just can't wait.
Yeah. John, I'm not going to I'm not going to presume that LSU is going to be a number two. I think they can make a good case for number one just because of how strong they've been. Remember, their only losses come to South Carolina. They can score, they can defend. And they've got one hell of a coach in Kim Mulkey. I mean, the thing about this team, and I've seen them 3 times now, that as any Kim Mulkey team is going to be kind of hard nosed. They're going to try to really pound it at you. I think this one is uncharacteristic in a good way in that they're quick, they're a finesse team, but when they have to, they can go smash mouth. And I think that's the thing that she wants to put her stamp on this team that way, because they're not always going to be able to run. Angel Reese is not going to be able to have all that freedom that she has. And now that teams have started to figure out, you almost have to double team her. The hard part with double teaming her is that she's good at separation. Another team keep in mind from the ACC, Notre Dame. If you've ever seen Olivia Miles and the way the way she beat Louisville with that knockdown jumper, that just that buzzer beater, it was just cool. I saw that in her as a freshman. And I'm looking forward to covering the game here in Louisville on Sunday, which, again, it wouldn't surprise me. Louisville is, quote unquote, down compared to previous years. They were Final Four team last year, but they're playing at home and they played Notre Dame well. That win a week or so ago, or that loss a week or so ago, was their first in 7 games. And if any team can really match up and really slow down Olivia Miles, it's Louisville. But again, with Notre Dame, they are just a different team because of her.
You're right, and everybody already knows how I feel about Notre Dame sports. That's the ultimate in sports. You already know that, but that's why I didn't want to bring it up because I know you and Pitt would be on my case. But I'll say this: the
No, no.
game.
Hey, look, again, game recognized game, man. So I'm not going to say anything bad about that.
They don't have a good matchup against Louisville. Jeff Wool's a tremendous coach. They don't have a good matchup. They were losing almost the entire game. Going into the fourth quarter, they were down by 7. Olivia Miles hit a great 20-foot jumper to win the game, but Louisville controlled that game. I would not be surprised this weekend if Louisville took them down in Louisville. I wouldn't be surprised because, they had won 7 or 8 straight. They were controlling that game against Notre Dame. I mean, totally controlling the game. Notre Dame hung in there, kept fighting, and then he pulled it out at the end. And you're right. Notre Dame will be a team to be reckoned with in the tournament. What else can you say about Notre Dame, Gary? Whether it's football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse, swimming, hockey, it's the epitome of excellent sports and excellent academics.
That infomercial was brought to you by John Webster, and we move on to the NBA. Before we went on the air, John, got word came down that Nate McMillan had been fired as coach of the Atlanta Hawks. A little surprising to me, John, only because they're still in a playoff hunt. They're a couple of games under 500, and yes, the Washington Wizards are gaining on them. They're within reach too, but at this point in the season, I think I'm a believer that you dance with who brung you, and that's my only question about a move like this at this point in the season. We know the reasons why. I'll let you address that one, but it seems like a panic move to me, unless it's just untenable and I'm missing something.
Gary, I'll say to you the same thing that I said to you in our pre-show conversation. There are reasons why teams win rings and are consistently in the race for a ring. And there is a reason why teams and organizations continue to be mired in mediocrity. Mm-hmm. Let me introduce you to the Atlanta Hawks, mired in mediocrity. You've got 23 games left. You're coming out of the All-Star break, and now you decide you're going to fire your coach. Oh, light bulb went on, and it's his fault. Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. Your team is your right. You can do what you want. Nobody, in my opinion, for the last 23 games is not going to make them go 23-0. They will, they'll still be the Atlanta Hawks. They're not going to the conference championship. They're not going to the NBA finals. It is what it is. The best player is Trae Young, and you don't have a lot going around Trae Young. I mean, you have John Collins, who's I think I got his name right, John Collins. Yeah. I mean, good ball player, but it's just not a strongly put together team. Nate McMillan will hopefully find another job and go somewhere else and do an excellent job. He has been an excellent coach wherever he has been, and I hope he gets another opportunity.
Yeah. John, I agree with you. That's the thing about Nate McMillan. I thought he was a good hire when he got the job. I think he's a solid coach. In fact, I always wonder if he's the kind of coach that would really work well in Washington. And I think they'd be patient enough to let him, really make his mark on a team. I think now. Having said that, I think Washington is playing well right now. I mean, it's obvious they're playing well, and they're within. They're in playoff contention as well. And I can't say anything bad about Wes Unseld Jr. With this because. There's something about a long time, basketball guy like that who finally gets his opportunity. I don't want to hear anything about nepotism, but there's a reason why he gets this opportunity. It's not just because of the whole legacy thing with the franchise and his father. I think he earned that opportunity, and you have to be patient enough to let them run the marathon. Everybody wants a sprint. Just like in LA, they want a sprint. And at Golden State, they want a sprint. What matters in mid-April, early to mid-April, is where you are then. And if let's just say if you're 42-40 and you're in the playoffs, or if you're in a play-in or something like that, who knows what can happen? You want better position, but this whole thing about trying, we got to do it overnight. We got to make all these trades overnight. And for I guess, John, you probably saw that Russell Westbrook is probably headed to the LA Clippers. I think in a way, I think that's a good move for them after being waived by the Jazz. I think it's a good move for them as long as they bring him off the bench like we've always talked about.
It's interesting. If things stay the way they are in the West, the LA Clippers will be the number 4 seed, and the number 5 seed will be, guess who? The Phoenix Suns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Westbrook going up against, what's that guy's name? Kevin Durant. Oh my goodness. Get your popcorn. Get your popcorn.
Yeah. Yeah, John, that's that could be very, very interesting. Thing about Phoenix, now that that trade is kind of sunk into me, that Phoenix might be one of the most dangerous teams to watch come April, come this spring.
They're going to be really tough. I mean, you and I have talked about before. Now you have Durant, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker. Great combination. A key is going to be, can Chris Paul stay healthy in the playoffs? He's broken his hand in the playoffs. He's pulled his hamstring in the playoffs. Things that, he's had some unfortunate luck. So we'll have to see. I don't expect Phoenix to stay number 5. I think they're going to move up in the seedings.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. But
yeah,
it's going to be exciting times. It's going to be exciting.
I think the balance right now, or the power balance in basketball, lies in the East with Boston and Milwaukee. And I don't think either one of those teams, as good as they are, I still don't think they have played their best basketball, which I think is saying something. It's like they've been consistent, but you haven't quite seen that dominance. And sometimes I think in the playoffs help teams snap out of that grind, and it changes their mindset. And that's when they turn it up and say, okay, we're going to show how good we are. I think that's what happened with Milwaukee when they went to the title, that nobody wanted to really take them seriously, or really take them seriously as a championship contender. And they really found a way to, just turn it up, really gut out games, and in a sense almost outlast Phoenix in the final. And Phoenix was a good team, but I think everybody agrees Phoenix kind of overachieved to get to that point. They were playing with house money for the most part. And Milwaukee really just showed how strong they were. They were, with Giannis, and I think that's the thing this year. You're going to see either how good Milwaukee really is or how Boston really is, no matter who's the coach.
Do not forget about the Philadelphia 76ers. They're going to be a problem, Gary. I hear what you're saying. I see it in your face, but you don't want to see them when you have Joel Embiid, you got a healthy James Harden, and they're hungry and they want to prove a point. Do they have as much talent as Milwaukee? No. Do they have as much talent as Boston? God, no. But they are hungry and they want to prove something. And I'll give you another sleeper out in that East too. Miami Heat. Eric Spoelstra is a solid veteran coach. And you got Jimmy Butler there. You got Bam Adebayo. You got a Hero playing there. and they're getting ready to make a move and get Kevin Love off waivers. And I think that's going to
That's
rejuvenate Kevin Love.
yeah, yeah.
It's going to be
And
interesting. I think
I like that one too.
Yeah, Eastern Conference and the West, you're going to have a lot of good ball, Gary. Hey man, make sure you get your coffee and your Coca-Cola because you're gonna have a lot of late nights, man. You're gonna have a lot.
Yeah, yeah. That's the fun thing about the playoffs too. Is when you get to those late games, and that's when you get to see fun basketball. And guess what? You also get to see with some teams, and I'm looking more at the East. You get to see defense, which, of course, we didn't see in the All-Star game on Sunday. We didn't see any defense. We didn't
No,
expect
no
to.
comment.
Yeah.
No comment.
Well, John, I got to get your comment on what you think about the dunk contest and what you think about the All-Star game, just as an entity as a whole.
Dunk contest, I think Mac McClung did a good job to bring interest to it again. He's going to come back next year. Some people are already clamoring for Ja Morant to get in the dunk contest next year. Morant, however you say
John
it.
Morant, yeah.
He says if he gets 1 billion followers on Instagram, he'll do it. We'll see.
Yeah.
Now, to your other point, the All-Star game.
Words escape you, and I know what you mean, but go ahead. I'll give you another chance.
It's just for me, and I would be accused, as Dante says, a grumpy old man. But even though it's an all-star game, I still want to see some defense. And to me, the only competitive all-star game that I see right now, whether it's hockey, football, basketball, baseball, or soccer, the most competitive all-star game I see right now is Major League Baseball. That's the most competitive all-star game that I see.
Yeah, I'd
I think
agree.
the NBA All-Star Game is very entertaining. I think they do a great job of marketing the product. They make it a whole weekend, and they bring it. It's great. Hats off to Adam Silver and what they do at the NBA. It's a great program. Me personally, I just need to see more defense and less, you just go by and I just wave at you. Okay, bye. Go get a dunk. Okay, now pass me to half court and I'll get a dunk this way. I just need a little bit more than that. But
Yeah.
again, I'm a grumpy old man, Gary.
Well, I'm older than you, and you're not old, and you sure ain't grumpy. But you like things a certain way, and I understand that. I mean, we're both old school. It's like, yeah, you can put up a lot of points, but you still have to defend, and that's it. We're gonna have to wrap this up, but John, I do want to make one little programming note. We're only a week or 10 days out from the Super Bowl, but I have to tell you, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to watch the XFL and then the USFL when that starts, because we have year-round football now, John. And I don't care what you want to say about the quality, but I watched the XFL game with the DC Defenders the other night, and I keep forgetting that DC has another stadium. I guess that's the soccer stadium where they
That's the
play
soccer
over,
stadium. That's
over
Artie
in
Stadium.
Southeast. But
Mm-hmm.
you know something, John, if I had like a Sunday or a Saturday, whenever they play those games, if I was back home, I probably would go watch one of those games just because it is football. And I'm going to watch
Yeah,
the
it's a
USFL as well.
it's a beautiful thing. I enjoyed it this weekend. I mean, is the talent level what it is in the NFL? No, but it's still football and they still play. And guess what else, Gary?
What's up?
Guess what else I love? The games are outdoors. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. They are playing in open conditions. There's no roof. There's going to be rain. There can be wind. There can be snow. There can be sleet. Oh my goodness, I'm happy.
Yep. And beer snakes.
And
And
on
on
and,
that,
and on and on that note,
yeah, let's let's call it a day, John. Hey, man, there's too much sports to really talk about in what 1/2 hour. So we're gonna put it off till next week. We're gonna find more to talk about. Watch us on YouTube. Watch us on Facebook. Tell your friends. Tell your family. John, take us out of here.
hey, another great week. We enjoy seeing you. We enjoy talking to you. Watch some of these sports and come back and see us next week. Take care.